Introducing Oakley Meta Vanguard, the new performance AI glasses designed for athletes with an action-ready ultra-wide camera, powerful open-ear speakers, and built-in Meta AI that syncs with your Garmin devices for real-time insights while you train. Take your performance to the next level with Oakley Meta Vanguard. Athletic intelligence is here. Learn more on meta.com.
Adobe Acrobat Studio, so brand new. Show me all the things PDFs can do. Do your work with ease and speed. PDF Spaces is all you need. Do hours of research in an instant with key insights from an AI assistant. Pick a template with a click. Now your prezzo looks super slick. Close that deal? Yeah, you won. Do that, doing that, did that, done. Now you can do that with Acrobat. Now you can do that with the all-new Acrobat. It's time to do your best work with the all-new Adobe Acrobat Studio.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for this day.
No breaks, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome along. I'm Ian Brannan. Coming up in this episode, reaction from Glasgow. The Cab Direct Championship title went down to a superheat. The Glasgow Tigers and the Poole Pirates could not be separated after 30 heats. In the end, the Pirates get back-to-back league titles. We'll hear from Richard Lawson, Zach Cook, Will Cairns, Gary Havelock, Neil Middleditch and Danny Ford.
It was just a fantastic meeting. It was real back and forth and I think overall a fantastic effort for Speedway. That went right down to the line.
More about that to come shortly, and also a special interview in this episode talking about the future of Speedway with a man called Brian Connolly. You may or may not be familiar with him. He's the man leading the campaign to bring back Speedway to the East of England Showground in Peterborough. They've had a significant win this week. The planning application has been thrown out. We'll be hearing more about that bid, and also bids to bring back Speedway to the likes of Lakeside, Rye House and Swindon. He's involved in all of those. He was also involved in the Coventry appeal as well. And he knows full well what is required to get the support to bring back Speedway to these former venues.
The Coventry Stadium appeal decision was a watershed moment. And it's a very effective planning and legal precedent that we can all point to and rely on. I mean, that Coventry appeal decision has circulated throughout the planning world. You know, everybody knows it now. I mean, it's phenomenal. I think it's could well be a game changer. Developers have had it too easy over the years. They haven't been resisted in the way that we're resisting them now. And I think in some cases it's come as a bit of a shock.
It's a fascinating conversation and insight into exactly what is required to bring back some of these former venues. Placards and letters of protest are all one thing, but these battles are going to be won in the courts and at political level as well. So details about what's required and what the future may hold from Brian Connolly a little later on here on No Breaks, No Fear.
No breaks, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome along. First of all, we'll start at Ashfield and the Cab Direct Championship Grand Final. What a remarkable occasion that was. The Poole Pirates retained the title after a remarkable finish. Grand Final second leg at Glasgow. After 30 heats, it was still tied at 90 points apiece. It led to a superheat decider where Richard Lawson and Zach Cook were the Pirates' heroes.
The Poole Pirates are getting the job done in the superheat of the Cab Direct Championship Grand Final. It went the distance, but in the end, the Pirates are once again the Cab Direct Championship champions of 2025, and the celebrations begin.
Well, Glasgow had earlier clawed back a 12-point deficit from the first leg, which increased to 14 earlier in the return, going level in a dramatic Heat 13 when Chris Harris went from last to first, and the home side took a 5-1 when Richard Lawson crashed out on the last bend.
Into the final lap of Heat number 13, it's Richard Lawson versus Chris Harris. Here comes Chris Harris up the inside. Lawson's going quick, one final corner, and it's Chris Harris and Richard Lawson. Lawson's down hard into the fence, and Chris Harris crosses the line, but there will be Some decisions to be made there for our referee, Craig Ackroyd.
And Lawson's been excluded. It's a 5-1 to the Glasgow Tigers, Ian, and that has just made a massive, massive difference in this meeting.
Well, the Pirates look set to seal it in Heat 15, only for another spectacular effort from Chris Harris that saw him overtake both Lawson and Cook to complete a 15-point maximum on the night as Glasgow won the second leg 51-39. So all square after regular time, it went to a super heat. Zach Cook and Richard Lawson again getting the better of Kyle Howarth off the second bend and then romped home for the 4 laps to take the title. Well, let's hear from the victorious Poole Pirates, starting off with Richard Lawson.
It was wild. The pressure was just insane. I'm just so glad we managed to pull it off.
I mean, real pressure. Obviously, went both ways. Heat 13, potentially a big turning point. You and Bomber racing, but you came off second best, and that gifted a 5-1 to Glasgow, and that levelled it up.
Yeah, I think the Speedway gods or whatever, we just had a script and they wrote it well. It's I was riding hard. I seen him coming there, and I defended the line, and we made a bit of contact. But I don't mind a bit of rubbings racing for me, and that's fine. I was wanting to close that door and then go to the dirt, but as he came under and put that under me, that pressure, the bike just let go on the slick stuff, and I couldn't keep hold of it. So in my opinion, it was him that made me crash. But it is what it is. That's racing, and you got to take it on the chin. But we got it done in 15 and 16, I suppose.
Yeah, you pick yourself up, dusted yourself down, another league title. Where does this rank in your achievements?
Because Pirates!
Javi.
Oh man, this has got to be right up there. It's so special. I think when we made that comeback, I think it was even last year against Oxford, that was special. But to take it to a super heat, to go through that pressure and then come out on top, me and Zach have had some awesome heats together, and wouldn't have wanted to be out there with anyone else.
So, Zach, double winner.
Yeah. Oh, there was some pressure on that one. The heart was racing. If there was a way to win it, that's the way to do it. But what a feeling.
We don't think that's ever happened in that way before. Will, come and join us, Will. Going down to a last heat decider, not just a last heat decider, but a super heat as well. So it's all going to be decided at that point, and huge pressure for you out there with Rich Lawson. And just on it with Richard, and he was saying, he was quite relieved, looked over his shoulder, saw you there, and thought, yeah, this is on.
Yeah, I was the same. Made a decent start and sort of just got myself into that dirt line, and seeing Rich was there next to me, and I just had to put the head down and go. And it was a long 4 laps, but I kept looking, and Rich was there, and he was there, and I thought this might be it, but I couldn't relax all race there, and it was big pressure. But the boys have dug deep this whole finals series, and what a way to win it. And the boys, everyone deserves this, the whole club, fans, everyone, and to win it up here makes that little bit more special.
It felt like Glasgow really had the bit between the teeth. You had some tough battles with Kyle Howarth, but then you had another shot at him in the super heat to decide it.
That's final Speedway, you got to go for them gaps sometimes, and I thought I was stepping off of there, but kept it up, and it was a long meet, and they come back at us. We couldn't relax. We had to chase there for a bit, and as I said, it was a cool feeling.
Well done, Zach. Will, got some silverware there. Not a bad start to life as a championship rider.
I know. He's your man. So's Rich. You've already spoke to Rich, but mate, it's something else. Felt a bit bad going into that Heat 15. To be fair, my hopes wasn't fully up, but when you've got Rich and Zach on the line, you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, it's something else. First year in the championship, and we're already 2 trophies. It is something else. But on to Red Car tomorrow, and let's go for that treble.
I'm not sure you're going to have too many more meetings with a more dramatic finish than that. Whatever happens in your career.
I hope not. Hopefully one day I'll be in that super heat, but I got a long way to go still, and is what it is.
There's Will Cairns. Let's hear from the management then. We'll hear from Danny Ford and Neil Middleditch shortly. First of all, the team manager on the night, who's been in charge of all the northern excursions for the Poole Pirates. A Pirates legend himself, of course, these days, Gary Havelock. And I had a chat with him after that title win.
Oh, it was sensational, First, I'd like to say full credit to Glasgow. The way they rode over the 2 legs, they were, more than our equal, really. And, it was touch and go for long stretches tonight. But the boys, never lost their faith, and we got there in the end somehow.
It's different, of course, when you're the team manager, but a lot of people, been watching on, either neutrals or riders. I know Dave Norris put a comment on saying this is the craziest meeting I've ever seen. What a finish!
Oh, it was hilarious. I mean, after about 8:30 or 40, I walked over Louis and he come on like this. I'm out. Oh, what do you mean? He said, can't handle it. Can't handle it. Don't put me in 8:15. Okay, at least you're honest. But that's what it was like. We were pacing. Midlow is always a pacer. He paces up and down in a normal league match. So, and at one stage I was pacing. You've even got me pacing now. But no, it was what a way to win it.
Yeah.
If you're going to win it, that's the way to win it for sure.
And, both teams obviously playing their part to take it.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. I think over the season, the Glasgow and Poole proved they're the best two teams in the league, and what a fitting way to end to go to a superheat.
So there's Gary Havelock, the northern team manager. Of course, the southern team manager is Neil Middleditch, who, this is his 33rd trophy since becoming manager of the Poole Pirates. And obviously his record speaks for itself. Has there ever been a more dramatic league final, though, that he's been involved in? He's not sure. Here's Midlow.
Yeah, I've been in a lot of finals, but I think that pressure there, and I'm renowned for pacing. My steps will be well over the limit tonight. But yeah, I mean, what a final! What a final! Absolutely superb. And Heat 15, it was just unbelievable. Heat 16, sorry. Yeah. Heat 16 was just unbelievable. I mean, you couldn't, team wars, get a second and a third if you can. But yeah, let's go for a 5-1 instead.
And you've been to a few grand finals, but in terms of it being level, all square after 15 heats, now I don't recall one being settled in a super heat like this before.
No, I haven't been in a super heat in a final, definitely not. And the pressure was pretty intense up there for sure. Both Javi and I were sort of a bit nervous, shall we say, but yeah, no, I mean, the boys all dug it. Everybody played their part, Will was obviously disappointed he packed up and won, but I said, hey, if you hadn't won heat 2, we wouldn't have won the meeting. So yeah, no, a brilliant night all round, and yeah, it's, I thought, honestly, thought it was slipping away at one stage, but the boys dug deep, and Zach and Richard in 15 are phenomenal. I mean, they've saved us so many times. I mean, I just said to Zach, so if the boat's going down, I'm calling you, mate, to get me out, because he just pulls it out of the bag. It's phenomenal. I'm so pleased for him, because obviously, Ben left Poole winning the trophy. Zach's won the trophy tonight, so I'm very pleased with the two brothers. That's a hell of an achievement for two brothers.
So, back-to-back league titles once again for the Poole Pirates. Let's hear from Pirates co-promoter Danny Ford.
Yeah, it's quite incredible, I still haven't quite caught my breath after that one. It was an absolutely fantastic meeting, real back and forth. And yeah, we just came up trumps when it mattered most. And Richard, Lawson, Zach Cook have been phenomenal for us in the past few months, and did it on the biggest of occasions tonight. And really, really pleased, and absolutely delighted, not just for ourselves, but for all the Pirate supporters back home.
I think good for Speedway as well. People talk about a great advert for Speedway, but a grand final that goes beyond the last heat, it can't be settled, because the sides are that well matched that it cannot be settled. And yes, there's been incidents throughout, but that's Speedway.
Yeah, there was incidents throughout. Richard Lawson getting excluded. We thought, to be honest, I thought that was curtains for us at that stage. Even if it would have been a 4-2, that would have made a huge difference. And then Will packing up in heat 14. So when those two things went not against us, but you certainly played their part. I thought we were really up against it. So to get the 3-3 in heat 13 was vital. We knew that we just had to, if we took it to a super heat, we fancied ourselves. Even just let Bomber do his thing, just packing in those second and third places. But then the boys had other ideas, first and second, and in the super heat as well. Great effort for Speedway over the two legs. There's been a lot of criticism about the first leg, but I don't think the racing was the usual spectacular Glasgow here tonight. If you got to the dirt, it was harder to pass, but it was just a fantastic meeting. It was real back and forth, and I think overall a fantastic effort for Speedway. That went right down to the line.
Well done then to the Poole Pirates, the 2025 Cab Direct Championship champions. Of course, they've already won the Knockout Cup and now chasing the BSN series as well. That's set to be resolved on Friday against the Redcar Bears. Finally, for this section, let's hear from Chris Harris then. He was voted the BSN Viewers Rider of the Night. He had a 15-point maximum in that grand final, and of course it takes two to tango. The Glasgow Tigers taking the Pirates all the way to a superheat. They could not be separated, and certainly obviously need quite a lot of acknowledgement of making a fantastic contest of it, not least through the efforts of Chris Harris. Here he is speaking to Stephen Craigan on BSN.
Yeah, we know it's going to be tough. This is why this is the best racetrack in the country. You can pull moves off like I did all night, so this is what the fans, paying fans, and I'm a Speedway fan, want to see. They don't want to see gate and go, they want to see passing and lots of it, and that's what you get at this racetrack. So we give it everything. All the boys just, they chucked everything at it tonight, and obviously got it back, and then got into that last heat decider, and then we managed to get what we needed there, and then just lost out then. But it is what it is. We didn't gate towards the end, and they was gating and just rode the line. The track went quite wide, the dirt, and maybe hindsight I should have just gotten to do a bit of a grade after the heat 15, but it is what it is. Congratulations to Poole, they deserve it.
And I'm sure every rider in the team has regrets after a meeting. You spoke about it, whether it's decisions, whether it's choices within race, but considering where you were coming into this, and out with probably the Glasgow promotion, the Glasgow fans and yourself as the team, not many people give you hope. 12 down against a strong side like Poole, who raced very well away from home. So to go to Heat 16 was an incredible achievement in itself.
It was. We knew we could pull it back, but we also knew it was going to be hard. We needed everyone firing, and obviously to see that young Max had a bit of an off night tonight and he struggled, but he's down in the dumps there. But like I said to him, his points over the season has helped us get to this position. So everyone should be proud of themselves, and everyone at the club. Everyone give it their all. It's just over the two legs, Poole was the stronger.
And irrespective of what age you are, or how much experience you have in any kind of sport, but certainly your sport is Speedway, it doesn't get any easier when you lose, does it?
No, I'm a bad loser. I hate losing. I want to win like everyone, but I'll take it on the chin. Got to have winners, got to have losers, and unfortunately we're on the losing end tonight. But hopefully I'm back next year here, and we can come back and fight again, and go again.
Yeah, without dipping too much into it, you put yourself on social media yesterday and said you'd signed your first contract at 2026. I'm not going to ask you who it is, but certainly the Glasgow Tigers fans were getting excited, and other supporters were getting excited for clubs that you've ridden for, but you're starting to make moves already for next year.
Yeah, from what we're hearing, that's what we. I want to have a winter that I ain't got to be on the phone all winter, so get it all done early, and I'm sort of pleased with how things looking, and move on for next year.
And you're like a fine wine. Someone said to me, you're like a fine wine, you get better with age, you're fearless. We always talk about young players or young people in sport being fearless. A man of your age, a man of your calibre, absolutely no fear, and you just love racing.
Yeah, I'm a racer through and through. I was brought up racing, so it just shows on the track. I just want to go out there and win. That's why Wednesday was so disappointing, as Poole can be such a good racetrack when there's a bit of dirt on it. So I get it, they wanted it to slick, so the likes of me and Carl and Leon struggled, but for the fans we wanted racing, and we got that tonight. And I'm just keep doing what I'm doing. When I can't ride like I am, then I know it's time to hang the old boots up.
Chris, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Congratulations on a great season. Unlucky tonight. Yeah, thanks very much for your time. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you can't argue with Bomber getting a full 15-point maximum from the regular heats. Yeah, finishing second best in the super heat, but that was the only blot on the copybook from the grand final as far as he was concerned. For the Glasgow Tigers then, they were close, but not quite close enough in 2025. The Pirates are the champions, and they are chasing down a treble. Can they do a double treble? And can it be, we believe, the first time that two brothers will have won back-to-back trebles? Surely that hasn't happened before. We'll find out, though. The Poole Pirates are 2 points down against the Redcar Bears at the halfway stage of the BSN Series final, and that will be concluded at Wimborne Road on Friday night, wrapping up the championship level of Speedway for 2025. Coming up then, in No Breaks, No Fear, we will hear next from Brian Connolly. Now, Brian Connolly is a Speedway fan, but he's also a retired lawyer who's taken an interest in helping clubs battle developers to bring back these former venues. He was involved in the Coventry appeal. He's also been involved with the quest to bring back Speedway at Lakeside, the new track at Swindon, and of now leading the quest to bring back Speedway to the East of England Showground for the Peterborough Panthers. And they had a significant victory this last week. We'll find out what that means, but also the wider case for bringing some of these former venues that are just laid unused at the moment, and how Speedway could possibly return, and the obstacles that Speedway also faces as well, and what we can do as fans to help assist these drives to bring back Speedway. It's an interesting chat, and it's obviously a lot more complicated than many would believe. But the Coventry ruling does give many tracks some hope. We'll find out why and how and what it means for the future of Speedway next with Brian Connolly on No Brakes, No Fear.
You know the words that dominate our news cycle.
Private equity keeps inventing
generative artificial intelligence on home. America's chip fueled by market volatility.
Bets on Fed rate cuts.
But do you truly understand how they impact your world and your wallet? In a world that skims the what, understand the why. Because context changes everything. Subscribe to learn more at Bloomberg.com, the global benchmark for business news.
No Brakes, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
So there's news this week that campaigners fighting for the return of Speedway to Peterborough have been boosted by the refusal of a dual planning application on their former home. The Panthers were, of course, the Premiership champions as recently as 2021, but their tenure at the East of England Arena was ended 2 years later after more than half a century of racing, despite their sustained crowd levels and overall significance to the area. Outline plans to build 1,500 houses on the showground site were approved following a decision by the council's extraordinary Appeals and Planning Review Committee in January, but this was subject to conditions and a Section 106 agreement to mitigate the impacts of the development. Well, we've got an update on that situation, and joining us now is campaign group spokesman Brian Connolly, who is involved in trying to fight for the future of Peterborough Speedway. Thanks for joining us, Brian. First of all, just give us an update on the announcement yesterday, the appeal, and what this means, and explain the significance of this Section 106, because this is what it all boils down to.
Thanks, Ian. Very pleased to. Yes, yesterday the Planning and Environmental Protection Committee at Peterborough considered the current state of play for the planning application and refused it. In short, as you've indicated, there was a resolution to grant planning permission, but that was subject to completion of very important formalities. The two most important being arrangements for highways, that's traffic in and out of the site, and the Section 106 agreement, which deals with various matters, including financial contributions to make the site acceptable in planning terms, and that could also include things like funding for school places, funding for the NHS. So it's a very, very important document in the planning process. So the applicant had 6 months in which to complete those arrangements and failed to do so. What has become clear is that there's disagreement between the landowner and the applicant about the Section 106 agreement, and in particular the financial commitments in it, as a result of which the landowner refused to sign the paperwork, which is very good news for us, because without the paperwork being signed, the process could not proceed. So that's what happened. There'd been a number of time extensions. We were very concerned about those, because it was perfectly clear that when the original permission was given, there was no latitude on time. It had to be completed within 6 months, and if it wasn't completed within 6 months, that's it. It would be refused. Despite that, council officers, the planning department, had extended time, which was an issue I took up with them yesterday, but they extended time, and they did that on several occasions. And I think they finally ran out of patience and brought it before the committee and recommended to the Planning and Environmental Protection Committee yesterday that the request for more time be refused. So it was fully discussed. It was raised by the case officer from the planning department, went through it. There were 3 councillors spoke, two of whom I've been working with very closely in this process for many months now. and who were very supportive of Speedway and our efforts to resist this planning application and get Speedway back at the East of England Showground. Then after that, I spoke with a couple of others to say our bit about why we wanted the whole process to come to an end. Then we had the land promoter who was putting the thing forward and a representative of the landowner. And it became clear there was a complete impasse between them. And the councillors on the committee expressed their frustration that this point had been reached, but concluded unanimously that there was no prospect of it being resolved. And they voted, every single one of them, to not to give it more time and to refuse the applications. So after years of work in the planning, the process, the planning application finally hit the buffers.
So with Speedway in mind then, obviously there are many other people that used to use the site as a whole for different events, and obviously the big agricultural shows and things like that it's also famous for. What does this mean potentially for the future, I think, is probably the main question a lot of people will now be looking at. And does this defend Speedway? Does this give an opportunity for Speedway to potentially down the long road have a future within any further development? Because I would probably suspect that there will be further planning applications going back in after the result of this now, maybe tweaked and looking to come at it from a different angle.
Possibly, but the short answer is yes. We it's a plain piece of paper now, and there is no planning permission, no new planning permission, so it's back to current uses. The indication has been that the landowner wants to put their own application in. That will take 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So there's a period of time during which they would look to derive revenue and income from the site. And we are ready, willing and able to talk to them about that. It's very early days because it's just over 24 hours since the decision was made. We were getting as prepared as we could be, and we hope to start that discussion as soon as possible. We've got no right to demand a presence on site. That's up to the landowner. But there's, as you've indicated in your introduction, there's been a long, over 50-year history, a good relationship between Speedway and the landowner, and we want to go back. So that's what we're hoping to work towards as soon as we can. If there is development in the future, again, we want to be there and in the room when these discussions first start. Sporting facilities have protections in national policies. It's called the National Planning Policy Framework, the NPPF it's abbreviated to, which gives specific protections to sporting facilities. Those were relied on and relied on successfully in the case of Coventry, where after 9 days of evidence before the planning inspector came very firmly in favour of Speedway and the protections that it has under NPPF. So we're going to be pointing that out and saying to people, you must, the policies require you to take into account the sporting facility. There are a number of permutations on that. It can be on site, or that in some cases it can be off site. But it's very clear, if a sporting facility is at risk of development, then it has to be replaced.
Just to give a bit of your background as well, because obviously you are a Speedway fan, but you're also a retired solicitor. You have a lot of knowledge, particularly in the world of planning, and you assisted the big appeal for Coventry a little while ago in the background there. But you're also assisting a number of other tracks that are looking to come back from the dead, as there are a few in a similar sort of situation to Peterborough, as we well know, such as Arena Essex, Lakeside, Rye House, and Swindon, of course, has been mentioned too, and you're involved in a few of those. So you're looking to bring here a knowledge of the planning framework and the laws that already exist as a way to defend or stand up for Speedway and its potential resurgence.
That's exactly it. As you identified, I'm now a retired solicitor, and just by chance, I had a planning case with my neighbour some 15 plus years ago, and in the end, I was so unhappy with the way things were going, I issued a judicial review application, which I won in the High Court, and then my opponent didn't like that result and took it to the Court of Appeal, and I won in the Court of Appeal as well. And I got immersed in the ins and outs of judicial review of planning decisions, which was very illuminating. That was very helpful. Going back to the Speedway connection, I went to school within a few hundred yards of Bellevue's old Hyde Road track, and could never have imagined that track being lost to the community and the whole Bellevue facility disappearing. That was a terrible decision made by Manchester City Council to allow that to be demolished and replaced with a car auction. It was just, well, it was urban vandalism. I mean, it was shocking. It should never have happened. It was a terrible decision. I'd like to think it wouldn't happen the same way now. Manchester City Council have gone some way to making good by the construction of the NSS, which everyone involved can be very proud of. So that was, that I still haven't forgiven them for that, and it drives me forward. I was a regular at Lakeside for many, many years, and in conversation one night, I heard the rumour that it was at risk to development. Rang round my real estate contacts and got the seller's pack on cloud storage, many thousands of pages, not all of which I read, but I was able to read enough to tell me how Speedway tracks could be saved and large sites developed at the same time. There's a very specific framework and mechanism for that to be done, and that's what I then started work on at Lakeside, and I was at one point negotiating to buy it as part of a joint venture, which would have worked extremely well. It would have preserved the track, not necessarily where it is at the moment, but preserved it, and the rest of the site made available for residential development. We were going very well in that. We had meetings with the agent. It was all going swimmingly until the owners entered into an exclusivity agreement without warning, and that company went on to buy it and put forward a inappropriate scheme for development, which they eventually abandoned before they sold to Google. So Google have now got it with the wish to turn it into a data center. Mm-hmm. So that we're on to round two, and we're working hard there in terms of our arguments, which we've put together, and we're looking forward to advancing those arguments as time goes on. At the moment, we've been contacted by a number of other objectors who similarly object to the development of that site for a data center. We've got grounds that they haven't, and they've got grounds that we haven't. So putting them together, we may, we will make more of a case of it to put to Google.
When we look at the various tracks that are currently, fighting, and obviously that you mentioned there, Lakeside being one. Obviously, there's talk about this thing with Swindon, which I know that you're involved in as well. And Coventry is bubbling along on the back burner. I know you're not directly involved in that now, but you were involved in that appeal. Rye House is still always talk about, and then of course we've got the Peterborough fight as well. Which of those do you think will potentially stand the best chance of coming back?
I think they've all got good chances. You can look at it on paper and say this should happen for these reasons. But life isn't like that when you're into sort of a contentious process. People have got strong arguments for development. We've got strong arguments for resisting development. We, as I've mentioned, we had those out at Coventry, 9 days of evidence before a planning inspector, and our arguments won. We were delighted. We didn't know during the course of the appeal which way it was going to go. We thought we preferred our arguments, obviously. But they could have gone the other way, and we're delighted they didn't. Lakeside, our arguments are sound. Against us, we know that there is considerable political pressure supporting the use of land for data centres. We know that the local council is delighted at the prospect of getting Google within the borough. So we've got big opposition in terms of national and local government, even though we've got national and local policies that support us. So it's what you just can't call it. It's we'll run our arguments, we'll do everything that we can, and we hope that those arguments prevail. But we're mindful of the context and the economics, the pressures on land use, and all those factors that are taken into account. Rye House, that's currently subject to an appeal to a planning inspector. We think that our position on that, our grounds on that, are watertight. We think that, again, one shouldn't predict, and I don't predict. But all we can say is that we believe the merits to be good. It's impolite, really, to make predictions. But certainly, I think we've got the better arguments, and we're very much hoping to have those out. We've engaged as fully as possible with the planning inspectorate on that appeal, and will continue to do so. So we're just hoping we get a result there, which will be a stepping stone towards getting Speedway back. Because if we succeed on those arguments, it will effectively be that the site should be retained as a Speedway track and stadium. So that's positive. Peterborough, is positive again for the same things. We had good arguments there. Those arguments to some extent had worked at first, but then didn't work when it came to the appeal committee in January this year. They should have done, but they didn't. But they, that's how things can go. But now all that process has come to an end as of yesterday. So that's great. Very pleasing. What else have we got? Coventry, yeah, that's bubbling along. I can't say any more about that at the moment. I do know what's going on, but that's quite sensitive at the moment and can't be aired publicly. But it's progressing well, and Jeff Davis, Dave Rowe, Dave Carter, they're working extremely well with a consortium who are very serious about bringing it back. We're all quietly optimistic, but again, time will tell. But it's live, and people are working very hard. Swindon, well, I think people know what the situation is at Swindon. There's the Abbey Stadium has been nibbled away to the point where there's a part left of it, which has got a speedway track on it. There's a suggestion being put forward that Studley Grange, which is a planning application not far away, will be a replacement facility for the Abbey Stadium. The position we've adopted is to express conditional support for Studley Grange, that condition being that it's built and effectively paid for before planning permission is approved at the Abbey Stadium. That's how the NPPF and the Section 106 agreements should work. So in other words, any loss of the track at the Abbey Stadium should be mitigated by the creation of one elsewhere, and the finance to make that happen should be in a Section 106 agreement. So again, on paper, it works perfectly. We've put arguments forward in terms of Studley Grange, what we think should happen. We've also put detailed objections in at the Abbey Stadium about what should happen there. And, that's complicated because of two different applications, two different local authorities. But people in Swindon are very clear about what they want and what they want to see happen.
When we look at the planning law then, obviously this is the area that you're an expert on, and this is a very useful tool in defending the case or making the case to get the land returned back to Speedway use. What are the particular areas then that go in the favour of bringing a stadium back that's maybe one of these that's maybe standing left rotting at this moment in time, and there's a bit of an impasse with other potential owners of that land? What is the part of the planning directive that works on your side?
It's NPPF, National Planning Policy Framework. It's paragraph 104. It's an express provision which protects sporting facilities. The example we gave, for example, in Peterborough was, what would people say if there was a planning application to build houses on where the football pitch is? Well, there'd be rioting in the streets. It wouldn't happen. No one would dare do it. But the same planning and legal reasons, which should defeat any such application, apply to Speedway. Exactly the same national policies. It's not unusual to find that these are augmented by local policies. In the local plan, every local authority produces a local plan, which really it sort of sets out the jigsaw about how everything's going to fit together: housing, employment land, hospitals, schools, infrastructure, roads, all of that. And it's quite an exercise. Every local authority does it, and the local authorities, in certain cases, set out certain protections for sporting facilities. There are some protections for the Coventry Stadium in the rugby local plan. Those were relied on in the Coventry Stadium appeal very effectively. There is some protection for the East of England Showground in the Peterborough local plan. Some protection in Thurrock for Arena Essex. I think Rye House slipped off the agenda somewhere, but we've been working on the local plan process to get that in and get that recognised at that stage. So they're there. Perhaps I should have mentioned one of the other things. I was a director of a non-league football club for about 10 years. It had lost its ground due to the financial mismanagement of a previous operating company. The new operating company, there were no common directors or shareholders. It was a completely clean break. But the reputation of the football club was so bad because of the financial mismanagement previously that the local council wouldn't allow the team to train on council facilities in the middle of winter. It was just shunned. It was, shocking. The chairman decided to pick up the cause, and he started having discussions with councillors, and very quickly the councillors realised that there would be votes in bringing the club back into the borough. I'd arranged a ground share on another ground outside the local authority area. Once the councillors realised that there were votes in this, it seemed that in no time at all they'd agreed terms for a long lease on council premises, and the club came back, and it was just fantastic. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah, sure.
It was a complete 180-degree turn on the politics. So what I say to people in these things, it's part politics. Sorry, it's part planning, but it's also part politics. You can't take the politics out of the equation. Councillors will do what they think is popular with the electorate. We've seen, for example, in Peterborough, the land promoter there has been very effective at the local political level. He's pitched it so that they've really wanted it to happen at the expense of Speedway. We've got to do better. We've got to do more to get in the political process and make our case. And that's what we're doing wherever we can. I've met 2 MPs in the last probably 18 months. One the Rye House MP was very supportive. No, 3 MPs, beg your pardon. One the Rye House, one the Thurrock, and one the Peterborough. All new MPs, all young, all very keen to listen and help. It's not a local government. Sorry, it's not a national government issue. It's a local government issue. But nevertheless, it's very good to have their support, because they know the local government officials and politicians, and they can exercise some persuasive pressure. So that's what Speedway hasn't, as far as I can see, hasn't been very good at that over the years, and that's an area that we all need to work on, and we are doing. Swindon, they're working very hard with the local politicians to make the case.
Ideally, it would be good, though, to be able to intercept this before it gets to the point where the club gets forced out, where, the planning is going on. Somebody who owns the stadium is wanting to move the Speedway out to do some development. And you could say on one aspect, fair enough. But if that is going to be the case, that, as you say, they do need to then find a new home before they get on with building this and intercept that before the club shuts down and is sat waiting around for a few years for this process to go on.
That's absolutely correct. We absolutely we need to. I mean, what we're doing is we're gathering some momentum. The Coventry Stadium appeal decision was a watershed moment, and it's a very effective planning and legal precedent that we can all point to and rely on. It's phenomenal. I think could well be a game changer. We were quoting it and relying on it at Peterborough. There are arguments about it. They're trying to distinguish. We're relying on it heavily at Arena Essex. It's so important, and it takes time to gather that momentum to start changing attitudes. I mean, that Coventry appeal decision has circulated throughout the planning world. Everybody knows it now. And they've got to look at it and take it into account when thinking about any development that will eliminate a sporting facility. But it just takes time, and it takes time for people to adjust, to think, to plan. And people, developers have had it too easy over the years. They haven't been resisted in the way that we're resisting them now. And I think in some cases it's come as a bit of a shock.
Well, all power to you, Brian, for everything that you've done. But the people I know that you've also brought in to be able to have these decisions go the way of Speedway, and as you say, having wider implications not just for Speedway, but in sport in general as well. That, as you say, it's now being taken into account what happened at Coventry, and that is such a landmark case. People probably don't realise the significance of it. That now that is a base to work from for other tracks in a similar position.
Indeed, and whilst on the subject, I must mention them that for the Coventry Stadium appeal, the Slave Coventry Speedway in Stocks was represented at the appeal by Richard Humphreys KC, who's one of the country's most senior planning KCs and who did a brilliant job. He did such a good job. We've had him assisting and advising us on the Peterborough case because we were working towards issuing our own judicial review application because we were so unhappy. Richard Humphreys KC was instructed through Knight's solicitors in Birmingham, who are specialist. They've got a specialist planning team who've also worked extremely well for us. We're delighted that we don't have to issue a judicial review application because it's time consuming and costly. But we've got to this point with their considerable assistance. And I have no doubt that established a very credible platform for us in Peterborough, which was being taken into account in terms of decisions made in the planning department.
No, it's fantastic, and obviously, it's great that people rally together and show their support for Speedway. But standing, I guess, with a placard and a flag only does half of the battle, well, not even half the battle. You've got to fight these people in the courtrooms, unfortunately, and at political level in order to get through.
We with the Rye House team, we met Lewis Cocking MP, the new MP for Rye House, and he'd previously been a councillor and involved in planning, and he put it perfectly during our meeting. He said, if we get an objection and it doesn't quote a planning reason, we ignored it. So everyone that writes in and says we want a speedway track, we like going, that's just ignored. I'm sorry to say that, but that's not helpful. I know people doing it with the best of intentions, but in terms of planning, it's just ignored, which is why I've been working with various tracks saying, look, we can do this. We've worked very effectively in the consultation process, both in Swindon and Arena Essex. We've really scored vitally important points in getting in and Speedway's voice being heard, which then percolates through the system getting that in the consultation process, it just ripples all the way through the system. But that's on the basis of proper planning reasons, which is so important. And regrettably, I think Speedway's been picked off over the years because that's what people have said, and they're just ignored.
Yeah, no, it's
sadly.
Yeah, it's an interesting insight into, I guess, the real world as well as to what is required in order to get this, get these tracks back. Well, look, thanks for explaining it to us. So the next steps then for Peterborough, before obviously people have got a fair way to go yet before a track goes back in at Peterborough. But what is the next step now that the planning application is gone, and now you're looking to have conversations with those who own the land to see if, at least in the short term, there's a way back?
That's it. We were off and running. We've working on, the physical requirements to get back on track. We've got a clear idea of what they are, how we're going to achieve those, and we want to start having that conversation with the landowner as soon as we can. And that process has started. That's just where we are. We hope that the harmonious relationship between the landowner and Speedway can be restored, and we can get back on track. They've got the track. They want an income. We want to race. We want to pay money to do that, and let's get on with it. But it'll take a bit of time. It's not going to be a 5-minute exercise. I'm talking to all stakeholders. I'm talking to the BSPL. They're very keen to see this happen, as you would imagine. And we hope it will now all come together. We can join the dots and get back there. So it's live. But as of yet, the conversations are yet to start. But this is, as I say, we only had the decision yesterday, so it'll take a little bit of time for the dust to settle, people to decide, what they want to do, and I hope we can get back there.
Well, thanks for joining us, Brian. It's been a fascinating insight, and well done for everything that you've achieved so far, because as you've pointed out, some of that work will undoubtedly help in the quest to bring some of these tracks back in the future, and hopefully we'll be able to speak to you again sometime soon about one of these tracks potentially reopening.
Thank you. I hope we can talk again, and we can report on further developments.
Brian Connolly, a man on a mission to bring back some of these well-known former homes of Speedway back into use, not least with Peterborough, where he's involved with Forever Panthers Limited. They've had that success already. That planning application has been thrown out for the Peterborough East of England Showground, and we'll wait and see what happens next. But clearly a long way to go, but an interesting insight there of exactly what is required to get some of these tracks back up and operational. So before we wrap up on No Brakes, No Fear, we'll just have a look at what is ahead in the world of British Speedway for the next week or so. And to be honest, obviously we're at the back end of the season right now. There's not a great deal on the agenda. We now have details of a couple of meetings that have been postponed. First of all, we've got the Poole versus Redcar second leg of the BSN Series final. That's taking place on Friday, October 24th. That will be a usual start time of 7:30 at Poole for that one. And another fixture that bit the dust because of the weather was the 4-team tournament at Oxford. The restaging date for that is this Sunday, 7 o'clock the start time at Oxford for that 4-team tournament. And looking at the other outstanding business, so far as we know, the fixture on Friday also cancelled, the WSRA National Development League fixture between the Middleditch Tigers and the Bellevue Colts. A few riders involved in the BSN Series final, so as far as I know, that is now being moved. We've also got action on Sunday as well in the National Development Trophy, Leicester versus Kent. That is at 2 o'clock the start time there. And British Youth Championships taking place, 500cc and 250cc at Leicester following that NDT fixture as well. And then we've got Leicester versus Bellevue on Wednesday, October 29th at 7:30, also on the agenda as well. But that's about it. Of course, the Speedway season will be due to be wrapped up by the end of October. We'll have another episode, though, of No Breaks, No Fear. We've got a few more episodes to come, actually, before we wrap up for the end of the season. Look out for details of that on the way very soon. But in the meantime, have a great week in Speedway, wherever it takes you. We'll be back with another episode soon of No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.